Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eduardo Gutierrez, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my proposal presentation on why we should increase the legal drinking age from 21 to 25. Now, by all means, before I continue this presentation, I do want to say that I am very aware of the opposing argument that we should decrease it to 18 and continue the education and show the minors and the youth the problems associated with drinking, the risks, the consequences, the responsibilities, etc. And by all means, I'm not opposed to the educational part. I actually further support education at a younger age. But what I am opposed of is granting a minor, 18, 19, right out of high school, the opportunity to go into a convenience store, buy liquor just as a 30-year-old man would, and say that's okay. You know, that's something I'm completely disagreeing with, simply because education is one thing, but maturity is a whole different aspect that cannot be taught. Maturity is something that has to be raised with. You have to grow into it. And that's one of my points in this presentation, is increasing the legal drinking age to 25 should be applicable to the United States, simply because people from 18 to 24, there's such a high maturity group. You have lack of self-control, you have nothing but party, all you want to do is have fun, you don't care about tomorrow, there's very little consideration for your next door person, if you would, your neighbor, if you would, and this is why this type of group has such high statistics in regards to alcohol-related suicide, alcohol-related deaths, driving, alcohol-related assaults and sexual assaults in any type of date rape form. That immaturity, that lack of self-control still hasn't fully developed. And furthermore, is granting alcohol to such a minor, 18, 19 again, creates a potential problem for alcoholism in the future. It creates a binge drinker in the beginning, and what goes from a casual hobby goes into a habit, and then a habit becomes an addiction, and then from an addiction just becomes a societal impact, as well as your own medical well-being is at stake. Liver failure, blood poisoning, kidney failure, so on and so forth. So when we look at these points, maturity is a huge aspect in this. And I want to point out that giving alcohol to anybody under the age of 25 further increases that risk to society, simply because people of this age are very prone to, if you would, mental instability. There's a lot of anxiety. People are succumb to peer pressure, the school stresses. Depression is a humongous feeling that's sometimes disregarded, thrown under the carpet. But this isn't tied with alcohol. You mix alcohol into depression, what you have is suicidal thoughts, you have lack of self-esteem, you have all these issues, that confusion about life and who you are and what you belong to. And this in turn turns out to be why the CDC actually reported that suicide between the ages of 18 to 24 is the third largest taker of life from that age group. You also have hostility, which is something that's pretty scary, because you don't know somebody who's at that such young age, they're very prone to mood swings as well, thanks to the hormones that are fluctuating constantly throughout the body at such unpredictable levels. Alcohol, I think, is just another catalyst that fuels this aggression. Now, when you talk about statistics-wise, roughly, according to the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, on an average year, this was, I believe, 2015, it was around 10,200 deaths. Now, from those deaths, 40%, or roughly 4,100, belonged from 18 to 24 alcohol-induced car collisions. This is an astonishing fact, considering the fact that people from 25 to 34 only accounted for 33%, people who were 55 and above only accounted for 11%, and anybody who was 14 and below roughly accounted for around 25%, but this was more so the fact of a collision-induced driver, not necessarily the minor itself, but the driver at hand. Now, on average, one DUI crash, one intoxicated collision over a course of its lifetime can amount to $1.4 million, again, according to the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. This type of debt increases the municipality expense, the medical expenses, the expenses for the insurance, what the families have to pay out of pocket at times, the work that's being missed, federal expenses that also play into it, as well as state expenses. So this is just from one person. Imagine when you have 4,100 deaths solely on people from 18 to 24. You know, this roughs out to, statistically speaking, in the year 2015, $44 billion in just DUI collisions. And when we look at the comparison of what the tolls take versus what spirits and liquor companies contribute to the GDP of the country, well, 150 million, according to 2014 survey, was actually reported to the GDP of America. But at what cost does that overshadow the deaths and the economic instability that drunk driving and all these expenses accumulate? You know, I personally don't believe that that's any type of excuse of anything furthering why I believe we should increase the age. Another one is the high risk of assaults. Sexual assaults tend to happen a lot more when you're drunk. I see it all the time. What goes from being something childish and cute quickly becomes into something that's very aggressive and disgusting. It turns a perfectly good man into a beast. Alcohol, as we know, limits the judgment in one's mind. And this is why, according to a 2015 survey, according to the CDC again, 97,000 victims reported that they either suffered or they actually suffered a date rape or some type of sexual assault, alcohol related. And this is only from 21 to 24. This does not include the 18 to 20 gap. So imagine you coming out of high school, like I said, that lack of self-control, those statistics are going to shoot up. And this is something that is a constant issue again in universities and in society as well, but it's another topic that's just brushed under the carpet. You know, the power of alcohol companies to lobby against any type of reform is definitely something that it's a thought-provoking concept. At what point are you going to overturn personal safety for profit and revenue? So aside from the statistics as well, I also want to bring up the point of drinking at a younger age. You're more prone to being an alcoholic and leading to alcoholism. Now, on average, when asked for a survey, according to the CDC as well, if given the opportunity, somebody who's under the age of 21 will usually consume more alcohol at a setting or at any type of event rather than an adult would. And I believe this is because of the desirability, the lack of obtaining the alcohol, knowing that it's illegal at that age. But that goes into my point of saying, if that desire is so strong, wouldn't that lead to a habit? Wouldn't that lead to an alcoholic down the future? You know, there was a statistic in 2012 that nearly 190,000 ER visits regarding minors only were all alcohol-based visits. And the average ER visit is $1,200. So you times $1,200 by 190,000 people, and you have an almost $240 million medical bill regarding only to minors and alcohol. And that's something that's frightening. At what point are you going to compromise the life of somebody just because you want to make that age group happy? You know, decreasing and educating is one thing, but like I said, and going back to the beginning of my presentation, that lack of maturity is not there yet. So when do we stop? You know, this is something that I think every person deals with separately, but people I think tend to drink because they're either rebellious, they want to feel like they fit in, the curiosity, and again, peer pressure. And these 4 points that I make out, they lead to what I call the triple A's: academic decline, alcohol dependency, and you become more antisocial, which is something that I see in a lot of alcoholics. You know, antisocial is a huge thing. So, to pretty much wrap up my presentation, you know, I want to revisit just again on the 3 points that I made out. That immaturity is again the biggest factor, I believe, and why this should be considered to be raised to 25 rather than decreased. The statistics speak for themselves. The CDC, the National Highway Safety Transportation, the suicide prevention hotlines, all of these agencies have the numbers to prove exactly why it is that allowing alcohol to minors would be such a high risk as well. And lastly, you know, do we really want to grow up in a society where minors are drinking more than probably the adults did back in the day, and lead to a future problem of alcoholism, more medical problems? So with that being said, I thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.